Mr. Festus Okoye, National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education at INEC. He's still with us in the studios. Just before we went on break, he was talking about having this national conversation on our elections, our electoral processes,
yes.
The number of political parties that we have, and also electoral violence. You say we cannot go like this, and a lot of Nigerians will agree with you. The question is, who is going to be leading this conversation, or who's going to be making sure that this conversation happens? Do you want to comment on that?
Well, I believe that the members of the National Assembly should lead this particular national conversation. And the political parties should get together under their national platform and also lead this particular conversation. The first issue is, do we need the number of political parties we have as of today? Almost 100 political parties.
What's your answer to that?
Honestly, we don't need over 100 political parties in our electoral framework. So if we do not need 100 political parties in our electoral framework, can we put in safeguards that allows the parties to exist, but put conditions under which they can get into the ballot? Because our ballot papers are becoming more cumbersome and very complicated for the ordinary voters. So we need a ballot paper that is user-friendly and that the Nigerian people can understand properly. So I think we need that particular national conversation. Secondly, we need a national conversation on how to protect the ad hoc staff of the Independent National Electoral Commission. It is becoming very, very difficult. In some areas, the leadership of the National Youth Service Corps refused to release corpers to go and perform ad hoc duties in some of those areas. So we had to fall back on students of federal tertiary institution in some of those areas. And even at that, some of them are also declining because of the violence that has attended our election in some of these areas. And we can't go on like this. We have been harvesting the collation officers from federal tertiary institutions, university lecturers, professors, and so on. The politicians are also going to these federal tertiary institutions to go and poach some of these lecturers, and thereby compromising the electoral process. So I think we need a national conversation where some of these things will be addressed. And we need to be very, very clear that we need to improve on the regime of the electoral process. The ordinary people of this country are completely engaged with the electoral process. They believe in the electoral process, and that is why you see people who are over 80 years going to the polling unit as early as 5 a.m. in the morning to go and wait and get a vantage position at the polling unit. So if this is what we have, if the ordinary people are engaged with the electoral process and believe in it, why is it that a section of the political elite is still holding the electoral process hostage through acts of violence and through other electoral malfeasance? I think we need a national conversation around some of these issues. The commission, we have our own challenges. We need to improve on our logistics. But I think we have our processes under control. But the more we plan, so a section of the political elite try to plan ahead of us. And planning ahead is not on how to improve the electoral process, but on how to undermine it. And I think that we cannot go on like this.
Can you tell us two quick things? I mean, right now you've said that INEC also needs to improve within itself. And
Yes.
you have said the National Assembly should be the one to lead the conversation.
Yes.
But we don't know whether you'll be prompting the National Assembly. We sincerely hope that you will be. But can you tell us, talking about improving, INEC improving its services, were your servers hacked?
Well, I have said consistently, and I've maintained consistently, that when issues revolves around ICT, that I know little or nothing about issues around servers and so on. All I know as the National Commissioner in charge of Information and Voter Education is that for the 2019 elections, our processes were manual. Results were sorted out and counted at the polling units. And from the polling units, they went to the registration area collation centers. From registration area collation centers, they went to the local governments and then to the states where results were announced. If the smart card readers were transmitting results to a central server, I don't have knowledge of that. But I've been asked this question a couple of times. I will go back to the ICT department of the commission and try to find out from them whether there was any process of electronic transmission of results. But what we said was that for the 2019 elections, the Commission will not engage in electronic collation and transmission of results until the electoral framework is amended to accommodate that type of situation. But so in terms of whether the servers were hacked or not, I'm not in a position to comment on that. But all I know is that the petition that was filed by the People's Democratic Party has issues around that. And the Commission also has its own legal team available and in place. And I believe that they will liaise with the ICT department of the Commission and respond to whatever is in the petition. So I think that the petition is already in court. The issue of INEC servers, whether they were hacked or they were not hacked, is already before the Election Petitions Tribunal. And I think that it will be most appropriate to allow the Election Petitions Tribunal and the lawyers to deal with these issues. But for me, I know little or nothing about the issue of servers and so on. Okay.
Well, I'll let you slide on that. Even though, you know, someone would argue that you're in charge of information and you should know a little of everything. And
I give out.
We've heard over and over again the INEC chairman talking about how results will be transmitted electronically and how people will not be able to cheat. You know, all of the foolproof processes we were told about, and all of a sudden you say, no, we're collating everything manually. But let's leave that alone. Let's go to Imo State now. We have heard that Imo North Senatorial District has not been declared. What is the status of Imo North Senatorial District?
Honestly, I need to find out. I've been aware I had to go to Benue to go and conclude the supplementary elections in Benue. Thereafter, I came back, went to Enugu to present certificates, went to Oka to assist in the presentation of certificates, and then I went back to Benue to present certificates. So I have not been to the office. At the end of today, I will find out the status of Imo North Senatorial District, and then I can get back to you. But as of today, I'm not aware that there are issues around Imo North Senatorial District.
Let's quickly go to Lagos again. I hear that we have questions for you.
Yeah, Mr. Okoye, I want to find out what law authorizes INEC to withhold the certificate of return of a person who has been duly elected and whose result has been announced. Is there a law that says you can hold on to his certificate of return? I just want to know.
I'm, you know, as a senior member of the bar, I will be very, very reluctant to make any comment in relation to this, because I am aware that in relation to Imo West Senatorial District, the issue around whether the Commission has the capacity or the competence or the wherewithal to withhold a certificate of return after a declaration and a return has been made is an issue that will come up for determination before the Federal High Court. I'm also aware that in relation to some other states where we withheld the certificate of returns, that those issues are before the court. I'm very, very reluctant to canvass the issues on whether there's any law backing up what we have done or whether there's no law backing up what we have done. The lawyers of the Commission are going to find their own processes in relation to some of these issues, and we are going to canvass our opinion in court. So I'm very, very reluctant canvassing that particular opinion on television, because that will be arguing a particular matter that is before the court on television. So I'm very, very reluctant. But as a lawyer, and as a National Commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission, I am aware of the reasons why we had to withhold some certificates, and we are confident that we are right in withholding some of the certificates we withheld based on the facts at our disposal and also based on our own interpretation and appreciation of the law. But I will not argue that particular matter here.
Well, Mr. Okoye, let me just quickly ask, I mean, in terms of moving forward and getting a smoother process, I know that there was this electoral amendment bill which wasn't signed into law. What is INEC going to do? Is INEC going to come up with fresh amendments or suggestions?
You know, as a senior member of the bar, I will be very, very reluctant to make any comment in relation to this, because I am aware that in relation to Imo West Senatorial District, the issue around whether the commission has the capacity or the competence or the wherewithal to withhold a certificate of return after a declaration and a return has been made is an issue that will come up for determination before the Federal High Court. I'm also aware that in relation to some other states where we withheld the certificate of returns, that those issues are before the court. I'm very, very reluctant to canvass the issues on whether there's any law backing up what we have done or whether there's no law backing up what we have done. The lawyers of the commission are going to find their own processes in relation to some of these issues, and we are going to canvass our opinion in court. So I'm very, very reluctant canvassing that particular opinion on television, because that will be arguing a particular matter that is before the court on television. So I'm very, very reluctant. But as a lawyer, and as a National Commissioner of the Independent National Electoral Commission, I am aware of the reasons why we had to withhold some certificates, and we are confident that we are right in withholding some of the certificates we withheld based on the facts at our disposal and also based on our own interpretation and appreciation of the law. But I will not argue that particular matter here. In Nigeria is the condition that requires them to have an office in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. Every other condition is paperwork. And the moment you deregister a political party, that political party can come back within a period of 30 days. So we need a national conversation and a constitutional alteration in relation to that. And then in relation to the issue of the Electoral Act, I think that the duality of electronic collation and transmission of results, together with the issue of paperwork, needs to be harmonized so that we can have a framework that enables us to also do paperwork and also do electronic collation and transmission of results. And then the political parties, in relation to their party primary elections, we need to also take a second look at Section 87 of the Electoral Act. So I think that moving forward, we as a commission are going to propose both constitutional alteration and Electoral Act amendment to the National Assembly.
You know, Mr. Okoye, INEC has to be judiciously careful at some instances, because people are wondering at what point in the Electoral Act or in your guidelines for the 2019 general elections did you have that portion where you can withhold certificates of return?
Well, I've made it very clear that the issue of withholding certificate of return is before a properly constituted court of law, and I'm very, very reluctant making submissions in relation to that. If at the end of the day the court say that the commission is wrong in withholding any certificate, we will definitely release such a certificate of return. And if the court says that the commission is right, then we will move, the commission will meet as a commission and then take a decision on the next steps to take in relation to some of those constituencies. But as I say, the matter is already before a court of law, and let us be patient and wait for the decision of the court or the determination of the issues around the issue of withholding certificate of return.
So, I mean, you definitely cannot hold on to the certificates of return in perpetuity. At some point, you have to take a stand on the reasons you have held on to those certificates. What are you going to do about the people or the areas where you have held on to certificates and winners have been declared, or in areas where you think that they have been wrongfully declared?
Well, in relation to this, there are timelines for the determination of some of these issues. So since the issues are already before a court of law, we will tarry a while and wait for the decision of the court. If the court decides that we should release the certificates to the people involved, we will definitely release the certificates, and we will not go further in relation to that, because this commission has made it very clear, and we've been very consistent, that we are going to obey orders from properly constituted courts of law. If at the end the courts say we are right in withholding those certificates, then we'll meet as a commission and then take a decision on how to make sure that the people of those senatorial districts or those constituencies have their due representatives before the various assemblies.
What was the plan initially? Because of course it does take time for people to go to court, to approach courts.
Yes.
What was INEC's intention when they held onto the certificates initially?
Well, our intention was that, our determination was that for you to be issued with a certificate of return, you must have won your election, and that the person or persons who have been authorized by the commission and appointed by the commission as returning officers for the various senatorial districts and various federal and state constituencies must make those declarations and return of their own free will. You cannot put a gun on the head of a returning officer and insist that the person should make a declaration in your favor, whether you won an election or you did not win an election. And then you come to the commission and ask us to reward you with a certificate of return. Definitely we will not do that. But as I say, these issues are before a properly constituted court of law, and it is prudent and rational to wait for the courts to make their determination. But we have our reasons. We did not go out of our way to deliberately or maliciously withhold any certificate of return. No, we are withholding only 4 certificates of return. That from Imo West, senatorial district. We are withholding that of Obi Federal Constituency in Benue State, and we are withholding that of Agaye in Niger State, and one in Akwa Ibom. These are the 4 certificates of return we are withholding as of today. And these issues are before the court of law. And we are going to just be patient and tarry a while and wait for the determination of the courts. At the end of the day, whatever the court says we should do, we will definitely do that.
Well, we sincerely hope that you start that conversation with the National Assembly. They have indicated interest in prioritizing conversation on the electoral process, and we hope that INEC would, seize the moment and ensure that that conversation is elevated.
We will seize the moment.
Well, thank you for coming on Sunrise Elite this morning. Mr. Festus Okoye is a National Commissioner and Chairman, Information and Voter Education at the Independent National Electoral Commission. Sunrise Elite continues in a moment. Please stay with us.